It's Judi Love Bowman, aka Dr. Judi Online. Welcome back to another edition of reading from the P15 Pass Book, America's Passport for Unity. And I wrote this, Judi Love Bowman, for the More Love Movement. And the More Love Movement, I founded in 1999, and the goals of the More Love Movement are unity, order, faith, justice, peace, and equality. And so I'd like to continue reading the preface. This is part 3 from the preface. And if you're just joining us, please go look at the first 2 segments of the preface. Today I brought my eyeglasses, my reading glasses, so I won't be just stumbling around like I was yesterday. And I'll just pick up a little bit from before we left off yesterday on part 2 and continue with reading from the P15 Pass Book. And friends, my goal is to help bring unity, order, faith, justice, peace, and unity. Unity, order, faith, justice, peace, and equality, and love, more love to America. Unity, unity, unity. And if we ever needed it before in America, we certainly do need it now. Continuing from the preface, I take no pride of authorship of the P15 Pass Book. I am simply building on the work of Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Shirley Chisholm, Marian Wright Edelman, Martin Luther King Jr., Oprah Winfrey, Barack and Michelle Obama, Black Lives Matter, the NAACP leaders, SCLC leaders, SNCC leaders, Susan B. Anthony, NOW leaders, PUSH leaders, NAN leaders, Southern Poverty Law Center leaders, and so many other freedom-loving Americans whose names we will never know. I am writing this passbook because, quote, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, end quote, John 3:16. That is real love. We are created in God's image, so we are love. I thank God for the opportunity to bring more love. Love binds us. Love covers a multitude of sins. I am writing to those who walk beside me in the More Love movement and to those who oppose me. I present the P15 Pass Book with a heart full of more love, radical love. P15 starts now. Maybe you just accidentally scrolled across the More Love Movement page, or someone shared the P15 plan with you. Keep reading. You are reading because there's a part of you that wants to know more about God's plan for your life. Part of you wants peace and joy. Part of you wants the truth. P15 is about love and truth, and it is a very significant word. Regardless of your religion, you can get something from this passbook. It is not my desire to alienate my brothers and sisters of other faiths. Love is universal. At the same time, I want you to know that I believe in the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I believe in the truth. There's some truth in just about everything. But Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto the Father but by me. John 14:6. In 2014, Sarah Palin was rallying conservatives and was trending with her Dr. Seuss soliloquy. I do not like this spying man. I do not like this yes we can. I love green eggs and ham. Let me say that again. Sarah Palin's soliloquy was, I do not like this spying man. I do not like this yes we can. I love green eggs and ham. It was the first book our son learned to read. Years later, he told me he had just memorized it and was not reading at all. But someone please tell Sarah Palin while she's looking out of her window at Russia that I love Dr. Seuss, but please read Dr. Think and Shine. Occupy your mind with Dr. Think and Shine, an alphabetized discussion for young people and those who love them. Both Sarah Palin and I have been trained to entertain and dazzle people. But I taught our son that if we just entertain folk, that they will respond to entertainment, but their lives will not change. P15 is a life changer. P15 is changing this nation. In 1712, on the banks of the James River in the colony of Virginia, about 20 miles from where my father was born, Willie Lynch, a British slave owner, delivered a speech. You know the story, but I'm going to tell it for the young people so we can rewind this thing, so we can reverse the curse and do better. In his speech, The Making of a Slave, Willie Lynch set the stage for generations of pathology, mistrust, and subdominance that ends today. Willie Lynch was the rock star of his day because he was known as the premier nigger breaker. He was invited to teach his methods of control to other slave owners. Lynch's antithesis is Dr. Thinkenshine, the premier dream maker of the day. As we know, capitalism is the basis for the American economy. Lynch said he would give slave owners the oldest methods for control of slaves and said, quote, "The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will be self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands." He taught the investors / slave owners to use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes in order to protect their investment. Lynch reminded the slave owners to plant seeds of disunity and distrust and envy. He taught the owner to pit, for example, the old black male against the young black male, the light-skinned against the dark-skinned, and the men against the women. A 70-something-year-old black male said of his nephew going to college, "Oh, he's just trying to be biggity." If his nephew were in prison, the same uncle would probably be sending money to put on his commissary books. While a student leader in junior high school, my peers elected me best all around, most popular, and best looking. Although the student activities director was also a light-skinned black female with what some would call good hair, I call clean hair good hair, she was at least 20 years older. Instead of encouraging me, she decided, without a committee, that I could only choose one of the superlatives. The older black woman is pitted against the younger black woman. At the same time, I was happy, especially since both of the second runners-up were my closest black and white friends. Division and jealousy is nothing new, but it has its roots in the construct established by Willie Lynch and his disciples. A similar incident occurred when, after having performed weddings in Boston, St. Thomas, and Virginia, one of the clerks in Virginia had me come to her office 4 times to get certified to perform weddings in her jurisdiction. Each time she had a different hurdle for me. I had my ordination certificate from the AME Church, the oldest black denomination, my 3 diplomas from Harvard, a proclamation from National More Love Day, April 5th, a star of the Star City Award, my passport, volunteer jail ID card, and a character reference. It went on and on. I was saddened and disappointed. The slave masters taught white people not to trust us and taught us to distrust one another. Often black women hold other black women back. I had a missionary president ask me, as if she were bothered, "Why did you get your credentials if you don't want a pastor?" A close family member said, "Judi, I love to hear you pray, but we pay him to preach." I had a relative who invited me as a young preacher to her church, a Women's Day service. Over a decade later, her child said she invited me in order to terrorize, his word, her fellow choir members. She wanted the other black saints to be terrorized at the fact that she had blown my hair out and it was bouncing. My pedigree, the bio was printed all in the oversized program, which featured a face-size photo of me and the gift God has given me to communicate. It was mind-blowing to learn later she just wanted to show me off to her church members. This is one example why posture, P1, and there are 15 P's in P15. But P1, that's why posture is so important in the P15 paradigm. Our motives and character say a lot about who we are and what is important to us. Generally, people treat you a certain way because of the way they feel about themselves. In the More Love movement, there is no competition. We can all make it. God is big enough to bless each of us all at once. I want to see everybody living their best life. See, Lynch taught the slave owner investors to pit the dark-skinned blacks against the light-skinned blacks on the popular Tom Joyner morning show. Tom Joyner and his co-hosts frequently make references about light-skinned brothers. I had a sponsor of the More Love with Dr. Judi radio show, who probably forgot to whom she was talking, say, "You know how them light-skinned, yellow, educated women are." Growing up, other black girls would say things to me like, "Your hair is plastic, yellow dog." I know a 60-something-year-old black church man who is still disturbed today because as a child, his mother would say, for example, "Give Donald the largest piece of cake because he's the blackest. Poor Donald." He said his mother would be embarrassed to go out and have 6 black kids running behind her. To this day, although his light-skinned mother is deceased, if someone says, "Poor Donald," he will nearly fall out. We did not make ourselves, and the bullying, unhealthy competition, self-hatred, and division inside and outside of the nuclear family often paralyzes and or distracts productive people. As I mentioned, this is the way Willie Lynch designed it. Old against the young, light-skinned against the dark-skinned, men against the women, those from this plantation neighborhood against those from that plantation subdivision, and so on. Internal wars within the black race regarding complexion, hometown, plantation, gang, set, clique, shield, denomination, etc., age, gender, and social status have impeded individual and collective progress. The case of Professor Anita Hill versus Clarence Thomas is an archetype of the female versus male struggle in the black community. As a graduate student, when C. Eric Lincoln was charged with assaulting me, the local papers initially reported that he was arrested for assaulting a Harvard graduate student. Many assumed that I was white, probably because of the confirmed biases about black women in Harvard. However, when they found out that I was a black student, many continued to circle the wagons to protect the noted black male scholar. It was no longer a racial struggle for them. It was a gender struggle because what black woman would, as they saw it, bring a black man down. His behavior and choices landed him in jail. Charles Chuck Vert Willie, a black man and my former advisor, who wrote on my dissertation proposal in his own handwriting, only a few typos, should get through the Committee on Degrees, that's Harvard's Committee on Degrees, testified in court that I had a lot more than typos to correct. Although the jurors were unaware of it, I had just been awarded the Advanced Doctoral Fellowship for timely academic success. Although I had declined the invitation in order to serve as an AME church assistant pastor and radio host, I was accepted to serve on the board of the Harvard Educational Review, and I completed my doctorate in 4 years. At the time, Harvard gave each student 11 years to complete doctoral work. I was a little too free for Dr. Lincoln and Dr. Willie. They did not want to look at me as a colleague. See, I see life through rose-colored glasses, and thought it a natural progression to be included in the boys' club at the academy, or at least be treated as a niece or a goddaughter. They seemed to be threatened by a woman, especially one who was younger, lighter, earning her 3rd degree at Harvard, when neither of them had earned 1 degree from Harvard. Back to the plantation. Male versus female, young against old, nappy hair versus curly hair. We did not make ourselves. But there is always a silver lining. First, at least one of Dr. Lincoln's other assault victims was able to tell her story after hearing of mine. Second, I found out that although many black powerful men who did not even know me stood with my assailant, at the same time, I found some strong, ethical black men too. They did not all circle the wagon to protect pathologies. Some protect the truth. My father, my former husband, and the father of my son, Dr. William R. Harvey, one of my mentors since the 80s, and Reverend Professor Preston N. Williams, my Harvard Divinity School advisor and friend, were 4 black men who stood with me. I appreciate their standing for the truth rather than getting into some messy national gender struggle to protect a man whose family member said that he had raped her and others over the years. Women have the same feelings men have, be they black or white. Despite the pressure from the head of our denomination and an entire legal defense team fund, Dr. Lincoln, a black church historian, was still found guilty of assault. If black women were not seen as sexually promiscuous, since prior to the days when we had to live in the homes of white people we served, the case would have probably had a different outcome. When the trial ended, I met one of his nieces at the MIT conference, Black Women in the Academy Defending Our Name, who said, quote, "If I had heard about your trial, I would have walked here. I believe he, C. Eric Lincoln, assaulted you because he raped me and another family member before we had children." She said they never said anything about the rape/incest because he was the only one in the family who ever stayed at the Hilton Hotel and was the only one who was in Ebony and Jet. I am honored to have been featured in Ebony and Jet and have the credentials in ministry and academia that Lincoln has. However, I'm a female. Former President Jimmy Carter, a Sunday school teacher, said, quote, "The truth is that male religious leaders have had and still have an option to interpret holy teachings either to exalt or subjugate women. They have, for their own selfish ends, overwhelmingly chosen the latter. Their choice provides the foundation for much of the pervasive persecution of women throughout the world," end quote. Sometimes women such as Anita Hill, Dr. Lincoln's niece, somebody you know, and I, have to choose between our race and gender because we do not want to damage the black man, the race, and our collective progress. "Oh, she just bringing the black race down and bringing a black man down," some would charge. Let me say, we black women have been raped, mocked, and abused since we got off the slave ships. We do not need our own black men, especially Christian church men, exploiting us, trafficking us, stepping out of parental responsibilities, pimping us, blaming us, using us, neglecting and or abusing our children and exploiting us. We do not need them to be so intimidated and feel so inadequate that the only way to socialize with us is on a base physical level. We need men to protect us, cover us, lead us, love us, cherish us, lay down their lives for us as Christ did for his church. As black women, rather than competing against one another, we need to organize as we did in the good old days with the National Political Congress of Black Women, with the late C. Dolores Tucker, Shirley Chisholm, Rosa Parks, Jackie Curry, and others. I applaud Robin McGraw with her When Georgia Smiled Foundation, drphil.com, and Respond in Somerville, where I worked as a fundraiser while doing my graduate studies, for their positive efforts. One day, very soon, all of America will smile, along with Georgia. I was honored to have been able to attend the AME Ministerial Training Institute in Springfield, Massachusetts. At the time, I was in my early 20s. One of my classmates, age 78, would drop wisdom on our 3-hour Saturday commutes. When she learned of Dr. Lincoln's assault and attempted rape charges, she said, quote, "Some white men probably raped him in the field," end quote. God forgives us, but we have to do better. We have to be the generation to reverse the curse, change things, and do better. If we never march again collectively, we can do what is right individually. We can let our lives do the marching and teach it in our homes and to the next generations. Let me repeat that. Let me read that again. God forgives us, but we have to do better. We have to be the generation to reverse the curse, change things, and do better. If we never march again collectively, we can do what is right individually. We can let our lives do the marching and teach it in our homes and to the next generation. We all want the same things in life: unity, order, faith, justice, peace, and equality. Along with gender, appearance, and age divisions comes class divisions. We have the Southern blacks who shout in church and historically due in part to segregation, limited access in education, housing, and opportunities, versus the Northern blacks who find it uncomfortable to if someone shouts amen, and whose minister of music must have a 4-year degree in music. These types of rivalries, which non-blacks are totally unaware of, have their roots in slavery and the Willie Lynch school of thought. The blacks who live on this plantation, where the master gives them good food and soap, were divided against those from that plantation, where they were treated like animals rather than helping one another. The ones whose masters were good to them, i.e., by not separating their families, treating them as 3/5 human, etc., opposed the ones with unethical masters. It trickles down today. I have claimed residency in Virginia, Massachusetts, Texas, Florida, and Mississippi. In each state, blacks, like whites, and other racial ethnic groups have a 90210 address. I could call the roll, but to me, every house, every neighborhood, every church, every supermarket, every city looks the same. The only difference is the presence and anointing of God. Although God gives us stewardship over certain things, everything belongs to Him. You have heard of the house nigger against the field nigger. Someone told me as if it were a compliment, and I kind of took it as a compliment. You are good in the house and in the field. Lynch taught that all whites must distrust all slaves, blacks, which is the root of racial profiling. I had an appointment with Professor David Keekley, a white male. While waiting, I was organizing my calendar and briefcase. I was putting my calendar in my briefcase when he came to get me. The first thing he said was, "Are you stealing?" He didn't trust me. No, I was not stealing. I was planning my time, which was just as valuable as his. However, he did not trust me, particularly due to racism and particularly due to confirmed biases about black people. Willie Lynch taught the slaves that slaves must depend on their masters and love and respect only the masters, not each other. He concluded his speech with, quote, "These, gentlemen, are the keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss the opportunity. If used intently for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful." That was Willie Lynch's foolproof method for making a slave. The principles presented in the P15 Pass Book are a foolproof method for reversing this curse. We can rebuild this wall and reverse this curse. There are some walls we can rebuild. And from my poem, Rebuilding the Wall, unless we stop the crack, we will rebuild the wall. This is what my ancestors taught in Nigeria and Senegal. Unless we stop the division growing in the human race, all that we have prayed for will blow up in our face. Feel the sense of urgency. Unless we stop those who kill, unless we stop these demons, our bond will never be real. Unless we stop the jealousy of those less talented, attractive, unless we tell them how it divides us, we'll all be disenfranchised, reactive. Unless we stop the crack, we will rebuild the wall. We need to begin rebuilding today, or Willie Lynch will have built it all. We did not use our energies to stop it yesterday, so join us in rebuilding before it is too late. None of us is perfect. Each one is part of the crack. But to say God is love and mean it, we have to give something back. Pick up your brick today. We'll all help rebuild the wall. We can no longer cover the crack. Each one answer God's call. Like a fine meal on a table, everyone picks it apart. Don't let the enemy impede you. He'll try to discourage you from the start. Pick up your brick, and if you can't, pick up your pad and pen. If we focus on God's promises, we won't have a crack again. President Barack Obama turned his plan to renew America's promises into goals by strengthening the middle class so that all Americans can have economic security, implementing the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and by returning to fiscal responsibilities. He has also worked tirelessly to empower families to succeed. His My Brother's Keeper initiative, which bears the same name as our son's club, My Brother's Keepers Club, founded in 2001, is impacting young Black and Latino men nationwide. I love our President, First Lady, Sasha, and Malia. President Obama has been the most consequential president in American history. I respect his integrity and tireless efforts towards unity, order, faith, justice, peace, and equality. In order to continue in the positive direction of President Obama, we need to make positive things happen in the lives of our families and communities. This begins in each heart and each home with each person. P15 is personal, and in this Pass Book, the More Love movement presents a plan to help make us better individually and collectively. There are no dues, no meetings, no hazing, no endorsements, just 15 principles and a desire to see change in your own life, home, and community, and in the very fabric of America. Whether your gifts are in healthcare, education, public safety, arts, music, homemaking, carpentry, hospitality, entertainment, service, printing, preaching, writing, or encouraging, I know you want to do something. You want a plan. P15 starts today. Try it for 1 year. We can reverse the curse. We can create and cultivate unity, order, faith, justice, peace, and equality. And these are things that will be self-refueling and self-regenerating for thousands of years to come. The 15 principles serve as symbols in the P15 paradigm. These principles are prayer points, discussion points. Some of you will be led to take the principles from theory to practice, transforming them into your personal action points. Like my children's book, Occupy Your Mind with Dr. Think and Shine, the P15 Pass Book is a discussion guide and reference book. Whether you agree or disagree with each point, take the parts that will help your life and your community. I realize that the More Love movement is Bible-based. I cannot compromise my personal beliefs for professional ministry of social responsibility. Rather, I attempt to blend the two. I believe that when I get to heaven, there will be blacks, whites, Christians, Muslims, Jews, wealthy, the underclass, the middle class, babies, senior citizens, and the differently abled, all of God's children. I believe that God is the only judge and that he judges us based on our level of understanding and based on his plan for our lives. Although I have a personal goal of making Jesus popular and famous and winning the whole world for Christ, I invite freedom and justice-loving people of all persuasions to join the P15 tour, More Love movement. Come as you are, as someone said. Eat the fish and leave the bones. We have to start somewhere because I believe that individually and collectively we can do better. Each of us can work on one or more of the principles. I am not presenting this P15 Pass Book standing 10 feet above contradiction, ruling and lording over you, the more loves. Some of you have written and prefer to be called more lovers. I have a long list of things to work on and pray about. I am a flawed person, parent, preacher, homemaker, writer, and spouse. Although I have a standard of excellence, I do not hold myself out to be perfect. I honor my husband, partner, Vic, but I am not a perfect wife. I am blessed to have had more than 20 years of great memories with our son, Legend, but I am not a perfect parent. At Legend's high school graduation, where he delivered an amazing valedictorian speech. A classmate's mom who served as a PTA officer during my tenure as a middle school PTA president said, quote, "You're doing your thing. You should have adopted my son," end quote, right in front of her son. I take no credit for our son's success. We prayed for him. He prayed and he worked tirelessly and earnestly. At a 2013 On Top of the World Trainers Tea for our life coaching and graduation services, Vic introduced me. Legend gave remarks. He said, "I recommend her to help you because she helped me plan my life." Wow. I was delighted to hear those words because I have always been emotionally attached to the ministry of parenthood. I give God glory for the honor of serving as the main caregiver for such a wonderful, amazing person. Dr. Thinkenshine says, quote, "For many, your children will be your most important contribution to human betterment and to the world," end quote. I was married for 6 years before I even tried to have a child because I knew I wanted to breastfeed and be a full-time and an attached parent. I am not inciting parent guilt. There are numerous mistakes I have made as a child and a parent. At the same time, I am offering that the home is the most important corporation you will ever inspire. I identify myself as a homemaker, which is not a subservient role. I am privileged to have been able to spend 20 plus years with one of the most talented, kind, loving young men in the world. I am honored to serve my husband and those who visit our home and or offices. Jesus said, "The greatest among you serve." I told Legend on a trip to the airport that I have had 18 years of wonderful memories and would not change a thing. At the same time, I am not a perfect parent. Nobody has a success-only journey through life. I thank God for his grace, mercy, and for the countless angels he has had in position in my life. My resume looks good, but I take no credit. I am leaning on the everlasting arms. I have had marital challenges, family challenges, substance abuse challenges, financial challenges, real estate challenges, legal challenges, and abuse and abandonment issues. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, and I have never tried to spin it or present myself in any other way. As the Apostle Paul said, quote, "I have had plenty, and I have been in lack, but I have learned to be content with what I have because God said that he'd never leave me or forsake me." Hebrews 13:5. I have no vote on how you live your life, but, quote, "As iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another." Proverbs 27:17. We will sharpen one another through this P15 tour. In 2013, after a 3-year-old child in Chicago was shot in the face, a popular radio personality told a pastor, quote, "We need to bring the National Guard into Chicago," end quote. The pastor said, quote, "As soon as they leave, the cliques will go back to doing the same thing," end quote. We cannot eat tilapia and London broil and drink Starbucks coffee, sing and shout today, then tomorrow go back to business as usual. We cannot make meaningful progress if we march, protest, cry, boycott, and make speeches, then go back as business as usual tomorrow. P15 does not begin on the front lines of gang wars, at the hands of a militarized police force, on the agenda at school board meetings, at children's funeral services, on the hook of the latest song, or on the floor of the House of Representatives. Real progress begins with you and me. Solomon said, "There's nothing new under the sun," Ecclesiastes 1-9. Consequently, you already know these 15 principles. I just want to present them, study together, and stimulate our thinking, and get each of us on a personal action plan so that we can go out and win the world for the cause of unity, order, faith, justice, peace, equality, and love. More love. Here's where I take my cue from the legendary Mahalia Jackson. I just want to help somebody with a word or a song. If I can help somebody with a word or a song, then my living will not be in vain. None of us is perfect, but we each have a plan. We all need a plan in our hands. Más vale estar pájaro en mano que se volando. Although Más vale pájaro en mano que 100 volando. A bird in the hand is worth more than 100 flying. There are hundreds of things, ideologies, pathologies, methodologies, and motives, i.e. racism, sexism, classism, police militarization, child abuse, and neglect. There are hundreds of things flying around. We have something life-changing and world-changing in our hands. The P15 Pass Book. And that is the end of the preference. That is the end of the preface. And I hope you all will join me. Hope you all will share this and subscribe. And hit the notification bell so you'll be made aware when I upload new parts of the book. I plan to read the entire book, the P15 Pass Book. Like I said, my goal is not to sell books. My goal is to try to help this generation so that 10, 15 years from now, we're not doing the same things. So thank you for joining me on Dr. Judi Online for the P15 Pass Book Tour. I thank you. I bless you. In the meantime, stay safe. The Lord bless and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious unto you, and give you peace, power, love, more love, boost.